Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a video which is kind of interesting. The reason for this was I drank a number of wines that I bought at BC liquor stores. Wanted to try them out with my friends, and all three wines we didn't like for various reasons. And none of them I don't think were corked or spoiled. It was just different reasons. One of them was the Verdignan, which is a 2018 90-point wine Spectator. And it wasn't just a lot of people's preference just because it was a lot of vanilla on it, a lot of oakiness. It was a good wine. There was nothing wrong with it, just people didn't really prefer it. So that's one reason. But a lot of times I find that people say a wine is bad. It's not. Sometimes it's just a personal preference, or they blame it on being corked. A lot of times I don't think wines are corked, but the more prevalent reason for why people don't like wines is a lot of times they're just a little bit past their prime. With most wines, I think there is a shelf life. And for your ordinary value wines that are $10 or $15, that shelf life is very short, maybe a year. So it doesn't, even though it kind of rises and falls, it's not that high. The peaks and valleys are not that high. With really good wines like Chateau, that escalation or this peak rising to its peak is quite long. That could be 15-20 years. The plateau could be long, about 20-25 years, and even the decline could be quite long, 20 years. So you're talking about a 60-year period. And sometimes the problem, I think, with a lot of wines is I think a lot of people actually keep their wines too long. And they save them for that special occasion that never comes, and they get disappointed. And a lot of times it's not really because the storage is that bad. It's not because the bottle is corked. It's just it's a bit past its prime. And that's what I feel with at least some of the wines that I'm tasting today. So I wanted to do a video on this, not to disrespect the wines here. I'm sure they were great at their prime, but I think just to show that they are kind of go through the process. And I think a lot of people mistake bad wines or for corked wines for just wines that have been aged too long. And storage conditions can affect that. So for instance, if your storage conditions are bad, that will decrease the shelf life. And a good rule of thumb for me is every degree that you are above, let's say the normal temperature, I would say like probably 17 is probably the temperature that I like. So if you are 3 degrees be above, if your room temperature is 20 degrees, you're 3 degrees above what I would say is normal storage or acceptable storage temperatures, not even optimal. You kind of halve the shelf life of a wine by half once by every degree. So if you're 3 degrees above and the shelf life of a wine is 10 years, then you've already got it 2.5 years. And so that's the problem sometimes when people are looking at wine. These are 2 wines that I bought in the BC liquor stores, and they're very attractive because based on the pricing and based on the age, I thought, wow, if I could get a deal or if they're actually drinkable, it would be a good deal. So I tasted them once with my friends in the office, and I'm going to give them another opportunity right now. So the first one is Chateau Verdignan. It's a kind of an Haut Médoc wine. It's going to be a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot, but mostly Cabernet Sauvignon dominant. It has a wine spectator rating of 90 points, so it was a good wine in its prime. But I was a little concerned because in the wine spectator rating it said it's good until about 2012, something like that. And this is where you can get kind of fooled about, because 2005 is a great vintage. So you're thinking, well, every wine in 2005 must be able to last 25 years. Well, that's not the case. Every wine has a different life cycle, and in particular, kind of entry level or value wines will have a shorter life cycle than a really good first growth wine. So this wine is priced at BC liquor stores around $54. So that's a very nice price if you can drink the wine, if it's drinkable, and if it's spectacular, it's a really good deal. Because I guess any wine that's got that much age on it, like 19 years of age, and is still very affordable, less than most Bordeaux wines of the current vintage, is a really good deal. So let's try and taste and smell this wine. So I did have this open before. Now it's very, very well aerated, and let's try and take a smell of it. So on the smell, when I first open it, and likewise right now, it's got a bit of an acidic kind of smell to it, almost like vinegary and almost like celery. And that to me generally tells me it's going to be probably a wine that's a little bit past its prime. And the color looks okay. It's a little bit faded, not too faded. It's not a corked wine. It doesn't smell like really stinky wet cloth. That's not the smell, but it does smell like, when wines are kind of over the hill or past their prime, to me they smell like celery, and they smell like very acidic. So it's got a bit of funkiness smell, but it's not that pleasant, but it's not stinky. It's got some weird smells to it. It's got a little bit of fruit on it, but it's got a plasticiness to it, and it's got a vinegary smell to it also. So let's try it now. So the predominant flavor right now, there is some licorice in there. There's a little bit black fruit, but it's really vinegary. And that to me tells me that probably this wine is a little bit past its prime. So again, when wines go through, their plateaus, their life cycles are different. Some have steep declines, some have very moderate declines over time. So this one is probably fairly steep in terms of its decline. Yeah, so it's really tough to get around this plasticky, almost vinegary, vegetal, in a bad way, kind of like celery stalk type taste to it. There is fruit there, but not a lot of tannins left. And so for me, this wine probably is a bit past its prime. And I don't have a problem with some wines that are a little bit past their prime, but this is quite advanced in terms of its decline. And so probably quite past its prime. I would say probably it's a good 5 years past its prime. That's unfortunate because it's a great price. And again, it was a great wine at one time because it was 90 points. I can see if it had a little bit more tannin structure that it's there. So again, not every wine can age, and most wines cannot age 19 years. And I guess from my perspective, it's just useful to know because it's probably, for this wine, the tannin is the problem. It's not fruit, they have fruit, and it's a little bit sharp in terms of the acidity. So I think the body and the intensity of the grapes, the quality of the grapes, doesn't allow it to age 19 years. But again, no knock on this wine, but it's just not, you're putting it in a position where it's not supposed to be. So this wine is really to be probably drank in the first 10 years of its life. It's not meant to be aged 19 years. And so you're asking this wine to do something that it's not. The next wine we're going to taste is the Chateau Malescasse 2009. And I've had this wine many times before. I'm quite familiar with this wine when it's young. Beautiful wine, provides very good value. This wine is now at BC liquor stores, I think in the Richmond Brickhouse branch, for around $89, which is a really good price for a 2009, if it's, good. 2009, again, another great vintage in Bordeaux. Compared to the 2010 vintage, it was a little bit more fleshy. A couple of concerns with this wine is that even Wine Spectator rating was very low for this wine, 83 points. That's not indicative. I've had other wines that Wine Spectator has rated very low, which I thought were wonderful. So you can kind of catch a break sometimes. The second thing is that the Wine Spectator rating said it drinks until 2013, which is consistent with what I know about Chateau Malescasse. But I thought, well, 2009, let's take a chance on this and see if we can catch a break and see how the wine is. The blend of this is 47% Merlot, 44% Cabernet Sauvignon, 6% Cabernet Franc, and 3% Petit Verdot. So again, let's try to smell this. This has been well aerated. when we drank it, I didn't think it was as pleasurable as I've had other younger Chateau Malescasse wines. And the reviews among my friends were kind of mixed. So, you know, some of them thought it was acceptable. Some of them weren't that pleased with the wine. So let's try this again. It's been fully aerated. We've given it an opportunity in another light, and let's see how it goes this now. So on the smell, it's still got that a little bit of what I would call that signs of aging. It has got that acidic smell to me in the celery stalk type smell, but a little bit more fruit. But it's got a very similar characteristic to the Chateau Verdignan. But the color is not too bad. So this is very similar. In fact, I think it's got, with aeration, more like the Chateau Verdignan. So it is probably a little bit past its prime, unfortunately. And again, when we talk about degrees, there's degrees of past its prime. When something is past its prime, to me, it becomes quite acidic. And that acidity is so pronounced that it's really hard to focus. There's not like there's no fruit on this wine. There is, but it's so hard to focus on the fruit when you have such pronounced acidity and kind of greenness and herbaceousness and celery stalk type things. It's because it's quite pungent. It's quite strong. That taste, in my mind, celery is quite strong taste, and so it's very hard to get that out of your mind. And again, I think this suffers a little bit from the lack of tannins. If it had a little bit more tannins and a little bit more body, these wines would, I think, show up better. But again, we're asking these wines to do things that they're not meant to do, which is really, these are early drinking wines. And again, I hope that this video is not to knock these two wines. I've never had Chateau Verdignan before, but I'm certain that when it was young, you get a fresh bottle in a current vintage. I'm sure it's fine. I've had Chateau Malescasse many times young, and it's fine. It's a good value wine. It's just that, I don't want you to get from this video, oh, Trophy 100 doesn't like these two wines. No, I don't like this vintage of these wines at this time. And that's where we have to be really careful with our language, and we want to just not be general when we drink wines and just say, oh, this is a bad wine. No, it's not a bad wine. There's no bad wines. It's just in circumstances and at a certain time it may not be in its drinking window. And I think for these two wines, they're not in their drinking window anymore, unfortunately. You know, if people, again, for people that are label hunters, you'll say, oh, I'll buy this. It's a nice label. It's 2005. It's $55 and it's 90 points wine spectator. So if you don't really drink anyways, or people don't drink anyways and you don't care, then maybe it doesn't matter. Again, it's whatever your pleasure is and whatever you feel you need to do with wine. And some people actually don't drink wine, and maybe they might like a little more acidic wine. With the Malescasse, again, it's $85. I think there's better wines at that price, even though it's very attractive with the 2009. So again, I don't want this to be a video where I disrespect these two wineries. That's not the point. It's just to show that not all wines are meant to age. And in fact, I would say 80% of the wines in this world are not really meant to age. And so you really have to watch out for that. Aging your wines too long and then have them be on the decline. And that happens more times than I think people realize. And when they don't like a wine, you have to distinguish whether you don't like a wine because you don't like the taste, as in the case with Vielcoeur, where we thought, you know, we just didn't like the vanilla nature of that. It was very pronounced, or it's past its peak, or it's corked. So there's various reasons why you don't like a wine, and you know, depending on that might be a wine that other people might enjoy. I don't know if this has been useful, but I thought it was an interesting video to produce. Hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, happy drinking.